Y'all need to help Stephen Phillips out over there. Out the door and off the radio.
Here's Stephen Phillips.
One.
All right, folks, we're back with you. And this next young man that we've got with us this morning with the radio does not need an introduction because I'm sure a lot of y'all know it, and I've been talking about this all week long. But Randy Bachman from Bachman-Turner, Overdrive, and the Guess Who. Good morning. How are you, brother?
I'm good. How are you?
Man, honestly, I'm just a little nervous talking to somebody who has accomplished, we're talking 40 million albums sold, and I don't know how many number one spots, and the list goes on and on with the stuff that you've done. And the miles that we have rode together that I have had your music turned wide open over the days. This is just, man, I really appreciate you doing this.
Thank you.
You, of course, a lot of people, one of the things that I didn't know till recently was the Guess Who. I did not realize that you was actually a founder of that band also.
That was my first gig as lead guitar.
Wow. And then
I showed up to play rhythm guitar.
Right.
In a Shadow song, Apache. And the lead guitar player broke a string. And I finished playing the song.
Oh, how cool.
On lead guitar.
Right.
And they all said, wow, you play better lead than our lead guitar player. I played violin at that point since I was 5.
Right.
And all you play on violin is lead. So when I heard a song, I played the lead on guitar. And from that point on, my next thing was played on Shakin' All Over.
Yeah.
Our name was changed to the Guess Who.
Right.
And we became the Guess Who.
Oh, man. And, one of my favorite songs of all times of the Guess Who was No Sugar Tonight, man. I love that tune.
Oh, that was mine.
Yeah, that was yours. I did not know that.
Lonely feeling deep inside. Find a corner. Oh, you know that one.
Oh, man. I'm a word for word. Are you kidding? Yeah, absolutely. And then, so now how long was you with the Guess Who before you actually went into the Bachman-Turner Overdrive?
I left in 1970 in the summer.
Right.
After American Woman album and single hit #1. The most incredible, insane time to leave a band, but I had to go into the hospital. I had a gallbladder issue that lasted 3 months.
Uh-huh.
If you ever had gallbladder or kidney stones, you know what pain is.
Well, that's talking about going out on top. But now you didn't slow down. You went into Bachman-Turner Overdrive, and what a career y'all had with that.
It took me a year to overcome that, start another band. My wife got sick of me being around the house.
Right.
Because most musicians are not around the house that much. And I started another band and actually accomplished more and sold more records with BTO in a shorter time than I did with the Guess Who.
Honestly, and the thing about it, even both, especially the Bachman-Turner Overdrive, but I play music. Of course, I'm a hillbilly redneck, and I play old country sound and stuff, but the songs that y'all put out back in, what was it, early 70s, I guess it was, when all they hit. People are still cutting that music and still doing that today. You can't go to a bar that with a rock band that don't play something from either of those bands.
We got very lucky. After the Guess Who, nobody would work with me in a band. Nobody would sign me to a record label or even book me a gig. So I got my brothers together, which is easy. I was the oldest of 4 boys, and an old friend, Fred Turner.
Right.
And we went out on the road. And a guy down south liked us a lot, Don Fox in New Orleans.
Right.
He owned the warehouse. He booked us in the early 70s, ZZ Top, the Allman Brothers, Charlie Daniels, Doobie Brothers, Peter Frampton. We all played together on each other's shows. We were then thought of as a Southern rock band.
Right.
And if you listen to BTO 1 and 2, there's twin guitars in there, very much like the Allman Brothers, Wet Willie, and all these others, and ZZ Top.
Oh, yeah.
And out of that, we then got a #1 record. You Ain't Seen Nothing, an album. Then we came back to Canada, triumphant with a #1 record all over the state and millions of sales.
And millions of sales, absolutely right. But like you ain't seen. We were kidding about that yesterday about you go baby. I told him, I said that's the start of Bad to the Bone. I said that must have been where that song come from, with that kind of stuff, and it just goes on and on. But
that came from me teasing my brother, and I said I was the oldest brother. My next brother to me stuttered,
right?
And that was going to be a joke that it was not to be on the album.
Really?
This was a work track. I just made up lyrics to. I don't even know what the song means, and I stuttered through it to be like him. And when the record label heard it, they said, you got to put that on the album."
Right.
That was the first BTO album with the 9th song. They all had 4 on the side, because then when you had vinyl,
right,
you had 4.5 minutes aside. I had to put the 4 long ones on one side and put this fifth one on the shorter one and the shorter one
Right.
on the, and that became our number 1 million selling single and number 1 in 22 countries.
Wow. Well, I'm gonna have to be with the record label. I think it has to be in there because I mean, you just everybody does that. But baby, you just ain't seen nothing yet. But what that is. But I'm gonna tell you, I probably had about 4, maybe 5 speeding tickets just listening to that "Let It Roll." Because when that song comes on, you just automatically go up to about 80 mile an hour, man. Let it roll on down the highway. But golly, but you are still making music today. I mean, and you have toured the whole country, and touring is gruesome. That is a hard job. I mean, are you ever going to give it up and say, look, I think I'm just going to go fishing today?
It gets harder and harder because of the idiotic restrictions and the airlines.
Right.
Everybody knows that the air on an airplane is circulated every 12 minutes.
Right.
Sometimes sooner, sometimes every 2 minutes. And it's oxygenated. I mean, you have to be in a plane that has oxygen.
Oh, yeah.
And I have a breathing problem.
Right.
I grew up with asthma, and I'm in AFib, which means your heart beats irregularly. To sit there with 4 and 6 hours with a mask on.
Oh, man.
Is insane. So I just emailed my tour manager this morning, and I said, I can make it to Winnipeg, and then we're on the tour bus, right? Because in the middle of April, I'm doing a storytelling tour with my band. We haven't played a gig in 2.5 years.
Right.
But finally, I think we're going to go out. I think travel restriction will allow. We're just going to do 10 dates in the middle of the prairies, and I'm from Winnipeg.
Right.
And so we're going to start in Winnipeg there and do a homecoming thing, and then come back here and see how everything else is going.
But we're
still on the road. You have no income unless you play a gig.
That is the truth. And that from, nowadays with songwriters, and we have a lot of songwriters on and musicians, and song royalties has really went down, and the money is actually in live shows now. And that's actually
well, you're
sad.
kind of getting ripped off by iTunes and Spotify, and you got to have 30,000 airplays, and they send you $1.
Yeah.
It's not like the old days. On the old days, you thought you're getting cheated by radio. When you got an airplay, you got 2 or 3 cents.
Right.
That's a big deal now.
Oh, yeah. I'm with you on that 100%. I don't know I know there's talking about coming out with some different platforms that maybe lean towards musicians that musicians are getting behind. But I'm with you. I know a guy that actually got a cut on a big album, and I think after it's all said and done with his song, the whole night, I think he ended up with like $20,000. And he said before I could have bought a house with the money.
Yeah.
And that's just sad. But the live shows, of course, man, I know you as well as any other musician out there, live shows are where it's at. You got to love it.
You got to love it. There's a connection, though, with the audience.
Right.
And jokingly, I've said a few times, all of us musicians and singers and songwriters should get together and tell BMI and ASCAP, who license our music to radio, to not license it and have radio go silent. Then you'll have a public uproar when you put it on the radio and there's no music because we're not being paid for it.
Right.
How would that be?
That would not be good. Again,
No,
that's a lot of people, like your music, they're not actually putting them out there. You have to go to the website and stuff to buy it, which that's, it cuts down on their sales, but they're actually making more money because they're getting more money for their songs that they're selling,
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. But now, do you not have here in the near future a radio show that's starting to air or something? I was thinking you was going to be on some kind
of Spinal Tap, where I play music from the 4 or 5 decades of rock and roll when I started,
right?
Which is the late 50s, with Elvis and Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley. And I had it for 15 years on public radio,
right?
CBC. And they got a new guy in last year who revamped everything. And my show ended, but it was on for 15 years.
Right.
And the minute it hit the newspaper that it ended, I got calls from the real radio, classic rock commercial radio.
Right.
And I'm banking shows right now because they're now 1 a week every Sunday night on classic rock radio right across Canada.
Right.
It's also being looked at by the USA classic radio, Australia classic radio, and the UK.
Right.
So it's turning out that it might be better than ever, but it's turning into a real job. But it's great because my real job ended, which was playing gigs.
Right.
Because when you're a musician or an actor or a dancer or whatever, in between tours, you're what is called unemployed.
Exactly. Yeah.
When the phone rings, oh yeah, how much, where, when? Yeah, I'll come.
Right.
You're employed. I've been unemployed now for 2.5 years. I'm making music at home. Tal and I did YouTubes every Friday night. It led to us doing this little mini tour in April, and now we've got this radio show back. We also have a show on Sirius XM satellite on the Beatles channel,
Right.
where the two of us sit there like Wayne's World, and we stupidly discuss Beatles songs, the hooks, who played the guitar solo, who ripped who off, where did they borrow the songs, how did they get their vocals from, and all that stuff. So we're pretty busy. It's a new way of doing music for us, and we're really enjoying it because for the first time in decades,
Right.
I get to sleep in my own very own bed.
Oh, that's a big
every
deal. That is
single night, because it is a big, big drag. Checking into a room every day, and the air conditioning doesn't work, and the toilet drips, and the bed is saggy,
Yeah.
and if the room isn't clean, there's dust bunnies under the bed. This is my own house. I love it. So if this is my new thing, with a little tour once in a while. I also am doing gigs this summer with Cummings as Bachman-Cummings. We got a new box set out with, I think, 6 vinyls and 6 CDs and a big booklet, Bachman and Cummings. And they've got music from the Guess Who, BTO, Burton, and my solo career.
Right.
And it's a really great thing. So we're doing gigs this July in the Toronto area, Toronto, Montreal, maybe over in Detroit, Windsor. I'm not sure.
Well,
Because they get canceled. They've been being canceled and moved for 2 years.
that's
But we do
aggravating.
have gigs on the books. We're ready to play gigs.
Folks, we are talking to Randy Bachman. Y'all can go to randybachman.com, follow all the stuff he's got going on. We all know him and listen to him miles and miles and miles with the Guess Who and BTO, Bachman-Turner Overdrive. Now, one of the things that I understand that you might do for me is maybe play a song before we get going. I would love to hear something if you would be willing to.
They get up in the morning from the alarm clock's warning. Take the 8:15 into the city. There's a whistle up above and people pushing, people shoving, and the girls who try to look pretty. And if your train's on time, you can get to work by 9. Start your slaving job to get your pay. If you ever get annoyed, look at me, I'm self-employed. I love to work at nothing all day. And I've been taking care of business every day, taking care of business every way. I've been taking care of business. It's all mine, taking care of business and working overtime. Workout.
I love it, man.
That's my new COVID voice, by the way.
That's the thing, though. You're talking about going back out on the road, and we've had some folks that come in here. I'm a big Paul Thorne fan, and he was, I don't know if you know who he is or not, but he was on, and they actually went back out on the road, and he said, I couldn't believe some of the words I'd forgot to my own songs because he hadn't played in them so long, and so
Yeah.
that's, but now do you have, of course, I guess it's a little early to ask, but have you got anything coming back to the States? I'm sure everybody down here is raring and willing to come out.
Well, we've had gigs in the States for 2 years, but they keep changing.
Right.
And what's weird is there's no uniformity in Canada between provinces or the states.
Right.
So we might go and start in Seattle and get in a gig there. And if we go over the border into Portland,
Right.
it's changed. You got to show double vaccination. My double vax shut me down. It gave me COVID,
Right.
which was terrible. I was in bed like for 2
I know people
2
that's had
months.
that happen. Mm-hmm.
And then you go to another state and it's different. So until there's uniformity, or until all this stuff gets lifted by President Biden or Prime Minister Trudeau, and all the travel restrictions are gone, and we can actually get on an airplane and breathe and eat and drink without people punching you in the face on an airplane. All of the world is going crazy over this ununiform. If there's rules, you can follow the rules, but when they keep changing and other people take it upon themselves to be vigilantes
Mm-hmm.
and enforce the law, it's It's a sad state. It's
I,
very
you
sad.
know, we are in a mess, and I do not disagree with you at all. You've got some people saying the mask works. They don't. Then others say they don't work. I don't think anybody really knows, and I think we're at a point now where I think everybody's just sick and tired, and they're ready to get on with their life. I had the COVID and with the flu on top of it, and I made it through it. I felt pretty bad there for a while, but I made it through it. But, you know, like you say, these people that's got these underlying conditions, I know people that has took the vaccine and actually have cost them more than what the benefit would be from it. So it's, you know,
I had a triple header. They call it a hat trick. I had double pneumonia, whooping cough, and COVID.
wow.
I went into the hospital. I couldn't breathe.
Right.
A week later, I was okay. They gave me antibiotic stuff. Then I had to go home and isolate because I still had COVID.
Right.
And then I overcame that. But it changed my voice a little bit. I got a little husky thing. I'm a little Joe Cocker, a little Bryan Adams.
There you go.
Which is kind of okay for me.
There you go. Now you're talking. I guarantee it. You know, I just, you know, talking to you, all these people like you that has been out there. I don't know if you ever remember Alex Cooley or not down here from the Georgia way.
Sure I do.
He was a friend of mine back and before he passed away. But you know, I used to call him up. We talk, and he'd tell me all these stories. You know, and the stuff that. And, you know, this stuff that you've got going on, do you talk about, you know, these radio shows and stuff, these stories that you have? I mean, do you put them out there, like, you know, the stories behind the music and the songs and that kind of, I mean, not the I don't like the trash stuff.
When I do my radio show, which is 2 hours,
right.
Randy's Vinyl Tap, somebody will have sent me in, or I'll have thought of a theme.
Right.
So the theme might be driving songs.
Right.
Okay, so it's Roll On Down the Highway, Born to Be Wild, you know, that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And then I go and tell my story of how I knew Sparrow.
Right.
And this guy came from Germany, John Kay, and joined Sparrow, the Edmonton brothers. They wrote a bunch of songs in Toronto. They changed their name to Steppenwolf, which is the book they were reading at the time.
Right.
And he wrote Born to Be Wild and changed his name. Edmonton changed his name to Mars Bonfire, the world's greatest name in rock and roll. It's like Kid Rock, right?
That is so funny.
And so I tell those stories on how I've known these guys, or when I met Brian Wilson, or when I toured with Ringo Starr and his all-star band. So those stories come out of me. And so it's like you have a seat on the tour bus or beside me on the airplane or a backstage pass, because nobody else knows these stories. When I met Jimmy Page, it was 1967 at the Cleveland Art Institute. It was with the New Yardbirds. I was with the Guess Who.
Right.
And he was finishing up 2 Yardbird gigs and then going back to England to start a new band, which became Led Zeppelin. And so I tell these kind of stories and how I shared the dressing room with Jimmy Page, and he wanted to play my Rickenbacker guitar, and I got to play his Telecaster guitar, and we took off our shirts because we're going on stage, and we got dressed in our little stage shirts. So I tell those stories, and people are very interested. And then I still see Jimmy Page, I don't know, every 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 years.
Right.
At the time, and 2 years after that, he had Led Zeppelin.
Right.
We played the Seattle Pop Festival, which was amazing. And it was Zeppelin's first tour. And it was with the Guess Who. We were on all 3 days. Woodstock. It was better than Woodstock because it was 3 days of sunshine. And when I saw Jimmy Page about 5 years ago, I was playing with Bachman-Turner, and it was called the High Voltage Fest. And Jimmy Page was there to play with the Black Crowes.
Right.
I said to him, I've got the poster from the Seattle Pop Festival.
Wow.
Would you like one? He said, I would like one, and so would Robert Plant.
Right.
So I came home and got a copy of it. I had it laminated, which lists all the bands in all 3 days. And they wanted it to show their kids. Oh, Bo Diddley, I would send him a poster. He wanted it to show his grandkids that he had played with Led Zeppelin and the Guess Who in 10 years after, and Slide and the Family Stone. So each other's, and we were all thrilled that we played on those things. And we like to brag to our kids and our family. Yeah.
Absolutely.
We know Sly and Family Stone. We know Jerry Lee Lewis, all that kind of stuff. So we're all fans of each other's. I
absolutely love it, man. I do. We've got to get to a break. And, but I was saying, I sure do appreciate you letting us take a little time with you this morning, and hopefully we get you back on here another day or two if you've got time.
I do have time. Just give us a call and we'll be back on. Thank you.
Hey, I'm okay.
Hello to everybody out there, and thanks for tuning in.
Hey, man, I love you, like I said, and thank you for your music that you have played and over the years, and I have thoroughly enjoyed, and so has most of the people out here on the radio listening today. Thank you for that.
Thanks very much.
Thank you for spending a little time with us. And remember, you can tune in every morning at WJULradio.com at 8 a.m. Eastern. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel and like us on Facebook, The Morning Dish.